I'm Coach Jackie Leavenworth, thrilled to be with you to share my 6 deadly pricing mistakes. Now, after 37 years in the business, I have learned through the school of hard knocks what to do, what not to do, and more importantly, how to do things better. I guarantee you that you will see yourself in these 6 deadly pricing mistakes. And I also guarantee you that throughout these sessions, you will come out with implementable strategies and dialogues to help you not make these mistakes again. So, without further ado, let's just get going. I'm going to start, before we get into mistake number 1, with what I consider the 4 pillars of good business. Now, when you think of pillars, I want you to think of a home that's like on the coast, and it's being held up by these pillars, and those pillars are the support. And if a tsunami knocks the pillars out, the whole structure comes down. I want you to think of it like that, because these pillars are supporting your business. Now, I also want you to know that I came up with this idea. I've, of course, taken poetic license with it. But the first thought of this type of idea came from Young and Rubicon, huge, huge marketing firm. So it's got a lot of credibility behind it. And here's what they said, with a little tweak. They said there are 4 things that we need to hold up our business. They didn't call them the 4 pillars of good business. I can't even remember what their 4 pillars of something, but I made it good business. But the 4 pillars were, number 1, recognition. So in other words, our business needs to be, or we need to be recognized by the public, by the community. They need to recognize my name and the fact that I'm a realtor. So recognition is number 1 and key. Number 2, recognition is not enough, because just because they know my name and the fact that I'm in real estate, I also have to have a good reputation. So in other words, now they recognize my name, they recognize my face, they know that real estate is my game, and they think very highly of me. So my reputation precedes me when they see my face and or name, and it's good. So reputation, pillar number 2. Pillar number 3, relevance. Now, let me explain that one to you. Relevance, to me, means that whatever I am saying, doing, or giving to people is meaningful and useful to them at that moment. I'm going to say that again. Whatever I'm doing, saying, or giving to people needs to be meaningful and useful to them at that particular moment, and useful to them, not me, useful to them. So let me give you an example. I've got an SFR designation, short sale foreclosures. That has 0 relevance to a gated community seller who is not underwater and doesn't have any financial issues with the house. 0 relevance. On the other hand, a luxury marketing designation has 0 relevance to your $150,000 short sale or REO property. So relevance has to be meaningful and useful to the party you're dealing with at that moment. And the 4th one does not start with an R. The 4th one starts with a D, and it's differentiation. Now, differentiation simply means that what I am doing, saying, giving to people is not what everybody else is doing. Like, they can tell the difference. And let me tell you, one of the biggest lessons I ever got on this was incredible. And it was, I was probably 4 years in the business. And again, I've been in for 37 years now. So we're going back to the 1980s here. And I was always, for my listings, always pitted against, like, one of the best realtors in town. Her name was Pat Householder. I hope that someday Pat Householder listens to this, because I had Pat on a pedestal. She was with a different company, but I wanted to be Pat when I grew up. She was amazing. And a name like Pat Householder, are you kidding me? I was like, why are you not using this in your marketing? I mean, I would have my hand with a house in it, and I am Pat Householder. She had the name, she had the look, she had the integrity, she had everything. So anyway, I was always pitted against Pat and vice versa for the great listings. And one of the listings I went out on, the seller called. She said, we want to list with you. If you can come out and we'll finish everything. Great. I got out there and I said to her, I'm curious, why did you choose me over Pat Householder? Because frankly, she's a great agent too. And I really like to know why people chose me. And the lady looked at me and she said, are you sure you want to know? And I said, yeah, I want to know. She said, we had to flip a coin. I said, oh. She said, you were both so similar and so good and so educational. She said, Jackie, we had to flip a coin. You won the coin toss. Well, I was glad I won the coin toss, but I came home and thought, okay, that can't happen anymore. I need to show differentiation. So now, when I learned about these pillars and recognition, reputation, relevance, and differentiation, a question came up in the classroom. And the question was this, and I want all of you who are watching this to think in your head how you would answer this. The question was, what if we could only give you 2 of these pillars? 2, not 4, 2. You have to choose 2 of them. Which 2 would you choose? And when that came up, we were in a small group, and after a lot of discussion, a lot of dissension actually on what they would be, we all came to the conclusion that, well, if we had to choose 2, I think the majority of us thought recognition and reputation. I was the spokesperson, so I spoke up for our group and said, all right, after a whole lot of discussion here, we came up with recognition and reputation. And the instructor said, you sound quite sure of yourself. Jackie, why did you choose those? And I said, well, I can only speak for me on this one. Everybody else can chime in if they need to. But for me, I would not be where I am today if it were not for recognition and reputation. In my real estate career and in my speaking and coaching business, I would not be where I am today because I am recognized in the business. My name is recognized and I have a great reputation. And that is what got me here today. So that's why I chose him. And he said, very good. He said, and I really hate to tell you this, but you couldn't be more wrong. Now, just for the record, folks, I don't like being wrong in front of a big group. I don't think any of us do. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And he said, now listen, not that they're not important. Look, they're listed here as one of the 4 pillars, each of them. He said, but if I could only have 2, the 2 I would choose would be relevance and differentiation. He said, and let me tell you why. And this was huge, huge. He said, Jackie, you answered the question yourself because what you told me is recognition and reputation got you where you are today. He said, I'm not here to figure out what got you where you are today, and I don't think you're here for that either. He said, what I want is what will get you where you want to go from today forward, not what got you here, because what got you here will not necessarily get you there. He said, and let me tell you this, relevance, being meaningful and useful at that moment to that person, differentiation, having things that other people aren't giving, doing, or saying that are meaningful and useful, those 2 things, they will get you recognition and reputation because you'll win the business with relevance and differentiation. And every successful venture will get you recognition and reputation. He said, but recognition and reputation will never create relevance and differentiation. It doesn't go backwards. Recognition, reputation. Do you know how many companies, how many agents are resting on the recognition and reputation? And they're not making the time to create relevance and points of difference that will actually then create the recognition and reputation in today's market, not yesterday's. I'm telling you, that got my attention. And the reason I bring that up in this 6 deadly pricing mistakes before we ever begin is this. My goal with you throughout all 3 of the sessions of this 6 Deadly Pricing Mistakes, my goal is to give you skills, strategies, and dialogues that will create relevant information that you can then share with the sellers to get saleable listings, and points of difference that your competitors are not getting because they maybe didn't watch this. That is my goal. I want to focus on relevance and differentiation, and I promise you we'll get a lot of it. Are you ready? So the first point of differentiation, I want you to, well, you can't chat your thoughts, but I want you to think your thoughts right now. Actually, when we're doing Q&As, perhaps if we're doing that, you might be able to chat them. But I want you to finish this sentence with one word, and we'll think about how differently all of you would think on this. Pricing houses is, I want you to think of one word that you would finish that with. Pricing houses is. So pricing houses is, if we were in a live session, here's what I would be getting. So let's see if I tapped into your brain. Pricing houses is difficult. Pricing houses is challenging. Pricing houses is subjective. Pricing houses is critical. Pricing houses is hard. Very rarely do I get anyone who says pricing houses is fun. Very rarely do I get anyone who says pricing houses is exciting. Because you know what? It is difficult. It is subjective. We can go in on a listing against 2 other realtors, and each one of the realtors will come into that seller with different market evidence. And that makes it difficult. So how do you differentiate yourself here and differentiate even your emotional being on this to think pricing houses is actually not just challenging, it's fun and it's exciting. We're going to go there. All right. Mistake number 1. Here's a different thought. Mistake number 1 is listing homes. Now you might be sitting there going, this lady's nuts. Mistake number 1, listing homes. I thought this was a seminar about getting more saleable listings, and it is. So the gentleman that told me this, Denny Grimes out of Fort Myers, Florida, he said, you've got to stop listing homes. I said, Denny, you've got to explain yourself. I don't know what you're talking about. He said, you need to stop listing homes and start listing people who will listen to the market. Stop listing the houses. Start listing people who will listen to the market. See, anybody can list a house. We can take this seller who wants $500,000 for a $410,000 home. We can list it for $500,000. We got a listing. Okay. It won't sell. We're going to be burdened. We're going to be tired. We're spending our money and our time, and we have a person disappointed in us in the end. Anybody can list a house. He said, you start listing the people who are willing to listen to the market, and you will increase your success tenfold. And I took that to heart. That is a very quick mistake number 1. But man, I'm telling you, I started really taking that to heart and talking to people and sharing the market evidence, which I'm going to be teaching you throughout our entire time together on all 3 sessions, how to share the market evidence. And I only started working with people who were willing to listen to that. Now, mind you, I am not saying that I'm going to stop listing houses and start listing people who will listen to me. I'm saying I'm going to stop listing houses and start listing people who will listen to the market. There's a huge difference. I don't want to be the teller. I don't want to be their boss. I just want to listen to people who will look at logic, look at the market, and agree to listen to it. If the market doesn't respond to them, they're willing to respond to the market. Mistake number 1, pretty quick. Mistake number 2, this one's not going to be so quick. Expectation creation. Now, if you look at this picture, I want you to think about a time in your life where you had an expectation that wasn't met. Maybe it was for holiday gifts. birthday gifts, what your spouse would be like after you tied the knot. I mean, think of a time when you had this expectation and you had that reality. And all of a sudden, my friends, things are not all well with the soul. The only time I've ever seen a relationship falter, anger between people, frustration, is when someone has an expectation that has not been met. At that point in time, somebody's disappointed. So here's my job throughout all 3 sessions. Everything I'm going to give you is to help manage the expectations that your sellers have so that they're not upset with you. Expectations of the market, expectations of us. All right. So let's look at this. Now, if we were in a live class again, I would have you do this. So I'm going to ask you to do it from home. What I'd like for you to do is take one of your hands, put it up by your eyebrows like this, like a scout looking for something here, and repeat after me. And I don't care if you're in your living room or a bedroom or a screened porch.